Well, good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is doing okay. And thank you for joining me this morning again for Mornings with the Manager. I would like to give you some updates about the past 3 weeks. Unfortunately, last week we could not live stream on as planned. I took a few days off, Thursday, Friday, and for that, I apologize, and that's why we scheduled it 7 days later, and it's today. So I hope everyone is doing okay. I want to give you some updates about the work that we are doing in the city of Monterey, and I think it might be affecting all of us. So let me start right away with an update about the COVID-19 pandemic. As you can tell, over the past 2-3 weeks, the numbers in the county of Monterey have been going up, up, up. Also, the metrics that we are using to monitor the outbreak of the disease have becoming increasingly worse, and we have seen that the state of California put our county, as well as many other counties in the state of California, on a monitoring list. And what this meant for us was that a lot of operations that had restarted again in our city had to be shut down or had to be modified. One of them was, of course, as we all know, the restaurant operations. They had to move from indoors to just outdoor dining. But it also affected the gyms. Part of that also, of course, our sports center that we had to close again. And so, what does this mean to be on the monitoring list? What it means on the monitoring list is that the state wants to see how our infection rates, how our death rates developing, and based on this monitoring data, then the state will decide again when we are being taken off that monitoring list. So there was initially the impression that the county would be just for a period of 3 weeks on the monitoring list. And I can tell you that is basically a deadline that gets pushed forward. We have to get into the green with all the monitoring metrics, and then we have to wait 3 weeks to get off the list to ensure that the data remains stable. So in other words, what you need to know is that for a really foreseeable future, we will stay on the monitoring list. And as you can tell, our metrics are not very favorable right now. We have about a 10.3% infection rate across Monterey County. You see the data daily on the news. 3,500 plus people overall have been infected. A great number has recovered. In the Monterey County, we have 21 folks that have unfortunately passed away. And here in the city of Monterey, the latest data that I can share with you is from yesterday, because until 5 minutes ago, the county hasn't updated the data yet for yesterday's data. But until July 21st, in the city of Monterey, we had a total of 46 COVID positive cases, and 50% of those, 23, have recovered. So currently in the city of Monterey, we have 23 positive cases. When you look at the metrics also, you see, as I stated already, the infection rate is somewhere north of 10%, 10.3%. But what it also shows you a metric that has gone from green to yellow, which is alternative housing sites. And what the county means by that and tracks by that are alternative housing sites where they put positive patients into motels and separate them from the living conditions in which they live. And you will find folks that have tested positive and cannot really isolate due to their living conditions in those hotels and motels. And that indicator also went from green now to yellow. And what it actually means is that they have reached more than 25% of the 100% capacity that they have created. So while this is a very different indicator, because it basically is alternative housing sites for those that are tested positive but do not require hospitalization. It's another metric that switched from green now to orange. So we keep a close eye on that. In the city of Monterey, I told you the last time we met that we have changed our enforcement rules, and I can tell you that a lot of other cities are following our example, so to speak. You saw that the city of Salinas implemented a similar structure with respect to administrative citations and code compliance. I can share with you that the cities of PG and the city of Carmel by the Sea also are looking at our legal framework and consider adopting it for their own cities so that we have a uniform standard on the Monterey Peninsula. And I know that also other cities in the state have inquired to figure out to how we are doing it, and try to, of course, we all try to learn from each other all the time. Our code compliance officers are out there every single day, 7 days a week. On weekends, actually, it is Friday, Saturday, Sunday that we have at least 10 hours each day of code compliance. And during the week, we have at least 4 hours every single day, Monday through Friday. So our folks are out there and are monitoring particularly businesses as well as individuals working in the businesses, as well as, of course, uh, residents, visitors that may be not compliant with our face covering order. Um, that model works pretty good. I think we have made over 800 individual contacts, and it's on a good day. Our code compliance folks are in 50 to 60 businesses per day, just chit chatting with them, basically enforcing code compliance, but also making them aware that we are inside the business and looking at how they operate. What is also of note is that, of course, with the monitoring uh, from the state, a lot of restaurants are expanding operations onto outdoor. About 6 weeks ago, we already issued an emergency order that was ratified by the council, which allows businesses to receive a temporary encroachment permit onto the sidewalks. For outdoor seating, there are no fees associated with that. Every single encroachment permit gets inspected by us to ensure that the setup is compliant with the CDC guidelines, but also that there is enough space between the outdoor seating area and the remaining path of travel on the sidewalk to ensure that there is social distancing, that we can enforce social distancing on the sidewalks as well. Uh, we have received probably now around 30 applications for that, and I think 27, 28 of them have been already approved. But what is also happening right now is that businesses are asking us to relocate outdoor seating into parklets. These are those little parking stalls in front of their businesses, and that's a little bit more complicated than it appears to be, because we need to create a parklet order or a parklet regulation that ensures that people who are sitting in the parklets are protected from drivers who might make a mistake and might have the potential to drive into one of those parklets. So we are working very closely with our traffic engineers, as well as with our risk manager, as well as with the PD and Public Works, to figure out how do we protect the patrons then sitting in those parklets from cars that might make a mistake and potentially drive into a parklet. So this is not a straightforward process. I want to be sure that what we are doing complies with the highest standards of safety. And so while some of our businesses are pushing very hard right now to get into the parklets, we still have to take our time to figure out how those parklets have to be designed. I personally do not think that just having a wooden fence around it is really a safe environment for people sitting there. So we are working with them, and we'll probably have by the end of next week everything lined up. We probably reach out next week to the Business Association, Old Monterey Business Association, Canary Row Business Association, and we'll ask them for their input and learn from each other how we are going to do that. But I wanted to let you know that part of the monitoring order from the state now will require that folks are sitting or restaurants are spilling out on outdoors. And of course, I believe this week, Monday, the governor also indicated that hair salons can operate in the public right of way or are allowed to spill out onto the sidewalks. And I tell you also, we already received inquiries whether we would allow on our sidewalks a barbershop or a hair salon operating. And we are looking at that as well in order to ensure that most of the businesses can be successful if they comply with CDC guidelines and also with our encroachment guidelines. Every single case involves people working there. Every single case involves services that we all are receiving. And so the point in all of that is that we try to walk the line correctly with respect to the guidelines, but also to ensure a safe operation of some of our businesses that, as you know, are desperately in need. Just consider the hair salons. They opened. A lot of them put physical improvements into their infrastructure, and they had to shut down. So that all puts a great strain on those businesses. And so we're trying to work that out. So that's what I wanted to share with you with respect to COVID-19, to code compliance enforcement, as well as with respect to outdoor seating, parklet seating. And we are going now into my next part of the briefing, which is I spoke about how businesses are struggling and how they have challenges here in the city of Monterey or in the county of Monterey. Yesterday, Congressman Panetta published an interesting statistic that I wasn't so aware of. The CARES Act, and you might recall that was the first large package that Congress approved as a direct result of COVID-19, included for over 6,600 businesses in the county of Monterey help that added up to about $812 million. Those $812 million are attributed to preserving about 82,000 jobs here in the county of Monterey. So the CARES Act for the county of Monterey affected about 6,600 businesses, as well as brought in $812 million. The program that the city of Monterey has created was our own local economic stimulus program, and you probably recall that I shared with you that we have allocated $500,000 from the parking fund, as well as $500,000 from the Thailand funds to that program. And we spent all the money for the parking fund, and we still have a little bit left over in the Thailand funds. but we also helped over 60 businesses inside the city of Monterey with contributions that range anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000. And we have that list posted on our website, monterey.org/coronavirus. And I just ask you to check out the list, because I'm very sure you will find many businesses that you frequent, that you use, from hair salons to restaurants to other small companies such as learning centers, etc., on that list. So please take a good look at that. We understand that the businesses were really, really appreciative of that. That program was administered by the Monterey Chamber of Commerce in partnership with the Community Foundation. The Community Foundation did the whole checking of the applications and forwarded their recommendations then to the city, and the city subcommittee consisting out of the mayor, vice mayor, and myself. We finally approved it. Keep in mind that the chamber was administering that, but these were our funds, your funds, from the parking fund, as well as from the Thailand funds that helped so many businesses. So I can assure you that a great deal of the businesses were very, very grateful for that. The question by the is right now from John Lofton. How does Monterey how does the governor's rent forbearance and eviction moratorium apply in the city of Monterey? The eviction moratorium is in place until the shelter-in-place order has been lifted. And so the eviction moratorium that the governor ordered talks about whatever comes later. And since we are still in the shelter-in-place order, it's my understanding that the eviction moratorium is still in place. Okay, so I talked about the business stimulus checks. I want to talk to you briefly about what happened this week at our council meeting. Actually, since the last time we spoke, we conducted 2 council meetings. And at the center of both council meetings were discussions about adjusting the transient occupancy tax, that is called the TOT tax, from 10 to 12%, basically by 2% increasing that. And this week, Tuesday, the council gave very clear direction to city staff to come back with a resolution that would basically allow to put a ballot measure in front of you, the voters, in November, which will raise the TOT from 10 to 12%. That measure will include that the Neighborhood and Community Improvement Program, NCIP, will also benefit from that measure, as 16% of the TOT will always go to the NCIP. And it will also require a 2/3 majority vote. So we received this. We received those information. We received those guidance from the council, and you will see us translating that into an action agenda report for next week, Wednesday, and that meeting will take place starting at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. TOT has been discussed numerous times with the public. The hospitality industry raised concerns with respect to the increase, and like I always mention, the hospitality industry is paying for the conference center through an additional surcharge that also gets passed on to the tourist, and so an additional 2% to the TOT plus this conference center facility district's surcharge is received by the hospitality industry, of course, as an additional burden in selling rooms. And what also the hospitality industry was asking for was a phase-in approach. We presented both approaches to the council this week, Tuesday. The bottom line was that our neighborhood representatives had given us as staff their input, and their point was, in essence, don't do a phase-in, do 2%, and make it effective January 1st, 2021. So council was presented with both options, and they decided to go forward as I described it to you, but I felt it was necessary to explain to you what the whole process was. A 2% TOT increase can result in something like $2.8 million per year in additional revenues, or up to $5.6 million a year. And with that, I want to talk a little bit about some data points that are interesting for the TOT. You might see folks in our town, and you see the tourists driving on Lighthouse or in the wharf area. Our hotels are not full, as you know, and that's how it can be expected. But we have guests in our hotels. We can share with you also that the hotel rates have been reduced by about 50% from previous year's rates. So while you have to look at this a little bit cautiously, but the average daily rate is probably around $150 a night right now, which is 50% from where it was last year. And then when you combine that with the hotel occupancy rates, which is probably also something around 50%, you can see that while there is TOT coming in now, it is very, very small and dismal. And we expected that. And that's why we reduced the budget for fiscal year 2021 by about $18 million. So our estimates for the TOT are where we expected them to be, which is devastating TOT this year. And even though that you see a lot of tourists there, that is really not helping us going forward. The question just popped up about extra funds to be allocated for staff rehire. We have $2.4 million put into reopening and rehiring fund, or hiring fund. That is in addition to the budgeted allocations for the library, the sports center, and the parks and recreation department. As you can tell, we had the sports center open, and we had to shut down the sports center again. And so while we have an additional $2.4 million allocated for that, we need to wait until we are allowed to operate those facilities, to reopen them, so to speak, and then also to bring appropriate personnel back. So I hope I answered that question with that. I can tell you that we try to substitute to a great deal some of those service levels through virtual programming, but also with respect, for instance, to a very, very important operation, the Scholze Center, which is a senior center that we are looking at providing alternative services. So we started 2 weeks ago with food distribution again of fresh produce, and this fresh produce we brought to the youth center, and this week we had organized fresh produce from the food bank, and we brought it to 222 different individual senior families or seniors. So we do this on a weekly basis. We try to substitute for closures of facilities by doing it outdoors. The library has a sidewalk pickup, where basically folks are ordering the books online, and then they can drive to the library after they get notified that the books are ready for pickup, and then they pick them up themselves. I can share with you what is interesting. We are tracking all various data points. right now. And for the library itself, we have a highly successful sidewalk pickup system in place. I think over 10,000 items have been have changed hands over the past 4 weeks or so. Uh, Only 42% of the users for the Monterey Public Library are actually Monterey residents. The other 58% of the users that are using the sidewalk curb pickup are coming from other areas. City of Pacific Grove is, with 25%, one of our strongest users of our Monterey Public Library, and I jokingly already shared with their city manager this week that, and that's a joke, but we will ask him to pay for 25% of the sidewalk curb pickup. But what it shows us is that our library is more than anything a regional library. This is a library that gets used widely by folks that do not live inside the city of Monterey. As we can tell, over 58% are coming from Seaside, Carmel by the Sea, Carmel Valley, even Salinas and Pacific Grove to use our services. I can share with you that we will bring back folks as we are allowed to reopen. And with the sports center, I shared with you that we were very, very close to reopening the swimming pool, and we were looking there also at the appropriate staffing levels there that included full-time staffing. In the end, the actions by the governors, in the end, the metrics of Monterey County are still preventing us from reopening facilities such as the sports center, the senior center, our recreation centers, as well as our library. What is also of great concern for me is our conference center. You need to be conscientious about that as well. The conference center will be closed probably throughout the end of the year. That means we will not have groups coming back. You saw that the Panetta Lecture Series announced that they would go virtual now as well. They were one of the holdouts that basically were very optimistic and said we can have a meeting inside the conference center, hopefully in September, October. So they are switching to virtual lecture series now as well. So keep the conference center in mind as well, because as we all are using the sports center and the library and the recreation centers, the conference center really is at the heart of our hospitality industry, and making sure that during the weekdays our hotels are filled and are generating TOT that ultimately benefits the library and the sports center and the recreation center. So the conference center is for me one of those things that people tend to overlook, but these are the conference center is an economic engine during weekdays, and we need to be able to reopen that sooner than later as well. But until we reach stage 4, we will not be able to reopen that. So with that, Dan, I will talk to you about the Highway 68 roundabout. The issue is that we got a report that at Highway 68 at the roundabout there are not so good reception issues with cell phone carriers, and of course we are not the overseers of cell phone carriers, etc. And the cell phone discussion is a very emotional discussion, as you have seen over the past years when we talk about 5G and putting up new cell towers to increase reception. You know that our community has a very strong opinion about cell phones, small cell, 5G, etc. So the issue whether there is bad reception and how we can fix the bad reception at the Highway 68 roundabout is a complicated one, and it's not something that we as the city can easily address. So my recommendation is to express your concerns to your carriers, and let's see what the carriers tell you what the issue is about that. With that, I see that my 30 minutes are almost over. I thank you all for your good questions. Please remain our friends as we really try to be helpful to you and to be responsive to you. These are challenging times. My personal opinion is we're not getting out of that anytime soon, but a lot of good things are happening in the city of Monterey. And please stay connected with us and stay healthy and stay safe. And thank you so much for tuning in today. Have a great day.